Michigan Music Hall of Fame inducts Carl Smith tonight, and with me is his daughter, Carly. Thank you so much for being here. Now, you're not only family, but you also sang with the band, Carl Smith and the Natural Gas Company, and that's how I first saw that band. Oh my goodness. And the album released in 1980, Burnin', was just re-released and is available to his fans once again, and I highly endorse anybody to pick up this album. Let's go to the early years. Carl was born in Kansas, moved to Portland, and attended Washington High School, which is now Revolution Hall. It's a music venue, so it seems appropriate. Is that where music came into his life at school?
Yes, he was very involved in music all through his high school years and continued on to Lewis and Clark, where his major was music. He met Larry Dunlap there, who is now living in San Francisco and writing for the San Francisco Orchestra. He's also touring with, his wife and Cleo Lane, and has been very active. But he was the original piano player in Carl's band and a dear friend to Carl. They have lots of stories from college days.
Now, he played tenor sax and flute and started this 12-piece band. That was so much fun to see in venues, to see all these people on stage around Portland. It was a blend of big band, jazz, and funk that just worked so really, really well. What are your memories of playing in the area with your dad in this huge band?
It was pretty amazing to bring different styles of David Sanborn and Tower of Power, different charts that were being arranged by Larry while he was down in San Francisco. The arrangements were amazing that would come back. They were like opening up a gift when we would practice and put them together for performances. It was a real transition going from jazz, straight ahead jazz, to adding this fusion funk to a 6-piece band. It was incredible. It was a really exciting time for Carl. I grew up around the band, but was not working with the band till I was about 14.
How old were you when you did the vocals on Burnin'?
I was 18.
Wow. How did you feel about that?
It was quite an experience going into the studio. A lot of growth when you get to hear yourself on a daily basis on tracks and, working with others. There were a lot of writers. Carrie McCoy brought an amazing tune to the table that we put together with Mary Lou Anderson and myself in about 3 days. Denny Bixby wrote a tune, Rosas, that was just really, it was an instrumental. It is an instrumental that's been re-released on this album. Peter Piazza wrote a tune, Ask the Right. Everybody was just excited to be able to sign with a label and make things happen.
That's outstanding. Now, with such a large band, there had to be several people that circulated through the band, sort of like a launching pad for talent that went on to other things. Can you give us some of the names of people who went on to have their own bands? Or?
Well, Ronnie Steen was the first band member that I really kind of clung to in the early days. I think I was 6 years old when I met him, and he was, I think, 17. He started out with Carl's band, and they were touring all over the United States, playing different gigs throughout different areas, Idaho, Montana, things like that, clubs. I came into the band in the recording session and really started working more around musicians in the 80s more. But the earlier days, Quinn Anderson, Brayley Brown, Larry Dunlap, and Lee Bradford were some of the main arrangers and really dominant players in the band. Lester McFarlane was one that I got to play with for about 4 years in the early days. That was amazing to work with.
Now, we miss Carl terribly. And oddly, the last time that I saw Carl and yourself was at Signe Anderson's memorial at Music Millennium. She also collaborated with him from time to time. Is that true?
Yes, yeah. We were very close. I used to babysit her children when she was fronting Carl's band. I was about 9 years old, Ladybug and Lilith. Oh. I actually was laying with Signe when she passed. and we were very close. She did a couple performances. I really wanted her to come down and sing with me at Ringler's, the 4 nights, which was actually the last performance for Carl prior to being pretty sick and not able to put that kind of energy out anymore. And she had cancer several times, and her lungs were just not strong enough to come down and share with us. So she sat in the audience, and it was really great to grow up with her in the band. And there's a lot of jazz licks I have in my head from several other vocalists prior to me in Carl's band.
Now, the re-release of Burnin' has sparked a renewed interest in Carl's music. And I see that you brought some other albums. Do you want to show us?
Well, this is actually a 13-page booklet that comes with the album. And it starts out with Linda Myers, who was a big part of Carl's band prior to this album. Then it goes back to my mother, Patty Hart, was the original vocalist in 1958 when Carl started his band. When he heard Ray Charles out at Jansen Beach, he just went, "That's it, I'm starting a band." Wow. And he was very influenced by him. And so my mom had a trio at the Patty Hart Trio at the Park Haviland and Helm in Portland, Oregon. When she was 17, she started working. And he met her his sophomore year in college at Lewis and Clark and would go down and sit in with her on his horn a lot at the Embers.
Oh, the Embers, yeah.
And anyway, so the first 2 years of his band, Patty fronted it. She just really liked the freedom of jazz more than the calculated charts, and really wanted to go back to her trio. Shirley Nanette, shortly after that, fronted the band. And that was a really great time to experiment with some of the fusion and funk that was being introduced in the late 70s.
Now, with so many people, this always just astounded me, because every time I'd see the band, it seems like, how are they going to get everybody on this stage? Because he played in a lot of different places, a lot of different venues in Portland. What was his favorite venue to play in the area?
Oh, probably the Crystal Ballroom, but we really enjoyed outdoor events the most. You know, there's a lot more room, somebody's running sound, you've got, the energy is just a lot higher, a lot more energy going on.
The festivals.
And we started out with KGW at the zoo.
Wow.
Before it went international. It was before they'd even built a stage up there. And yeah, I think I was about 15, and those were really fun performances to do. Carl loved the band, his energy, and just the fans. He was really dedicated to Portland and the West Coast for really helping young artists coming out of different colleges that wanted to see that book. 300 charts. So he needed readers.
So what does it mean to you and the family that your dad is being inducted into the Oregon Music Hall of Fame tonight?
It's pretty emotional. I really wanted to see it happen before he passed. He had kidney failure and died of congestive heart failure in 2018. And he was on a machine daily for 2 years. And it was time for him to go, but I was just hoping and praying that he would see this day. So I'm sure he's here with us today, shining down and enjoying it just as much as we are, I hope.
And putting his loving arms around you for being up there to accept the award. Very definitely. Carly, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
It really is a crime. What are you doing with my mind?